Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. Jimmy Breslin's my husband. He always wants to know where I'm going. So a lot of the time, I take him with me. Today I brought him here. I figured that's all right because he always has something to say. That's true, isn't it? Don't you always have something to say?
I have nothing to say today. This sets me off with me having nothing to say, with all the people in studios around town now who have nothing to say and say it in 5 and 6 minute bursts, sometimes a half hour
But we're
bursts.
trying to make this program different. And I thought you would be a good conversationalist, so could we try to have some conversation? What are you trying to say, that that television is no longer
the newspapers
interesting or informative?
The newspapers have nothing to say either, and they say it in 850 words. They say nothing.
But if I were to call it the media, you would come back with what?
The media is the plural of mediocre.
Mediocrity, or mediocre. So what do you call the combination of newspapers and television and radio?
What do I call it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I take it one at a time.
So you can't, you couldn't, there's no collective term for
No, because in all this morass that I read this morning or heard this morning on this Super Bowl of Janet Jackson, one piece out of the whole city, woman on the New York Times, Alessandra Stanley, and she had 2 S's in her name, and I never comment on anybody so affected they would have a name like that, 2 S's. But she wrote the only sensible piece, a lovely piece, about the erectile dysfunctional ads at the halftime of the Super Bowl when the Janet Jackson, in a clear publicity stunt, hoping to sell records today, or she's got a new record coming out, had this breast business. And as she noted so wisely, the woman in the Times said, to see a middle-aged breast come tumbling out of her gab, it was not so exciting.
Well, maybe it's not so exciting to see any woman's breast. Why does it have to be middle-aged?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know how they can. I don't know how people
it's amazing,
concentrate on that one
It's amazing
part of the
how
body.
this became such a topic of conversation.
Yeah.
If the Football League gets, what was it? What's the name of the producer of the show? MTV. Then they're going to get hip hop and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So nobody should be surprised if you listen to the lyrics. That's what it's all about.
Well, the football Super Bowl might be interested in getting some younger people. That game is getting a little bit old. It's based on 5 patterns while they run downfield. If you check it, there's nothing else to it, and guys bang into each other. But if you want to, that's good. NASCAR fans, go get them. But if you wanted to appeal and get to a lot of younger people who may not be so enchanted with the football, here it is.
It seems to me everybody watches football.
Well,
though.
I don't know. That's a word.
All right,
everybody watches it. No, who saw the Janet Jackson
I don't
thing?
even care about it. I don't know. Why do we even bother to talk about it?
I'm just telling you they don't.
What's
watch
interesting, what does bother me is that Michael Powell, the head of the FCC, took it upon himself to say he's going to have a big investigation into this, that CBS takes this wimpy view when, in fact, it's both their company and MTV are owned by Viacom, and they're all part of the same company. So what is the whole thing all about?
I don't know. I know what Viacom is owned by an old man, right? Sumner Redstone.
Now you're going to say.
And he's married to I don't know what, a 14-year-old. I called there today. Nobody bothered him. He's the one that put on the spot. And I called him. I wanted to see if he'd seen these great shows yesterday. And you get a security man answers the main number for Viacom. Security says.
Well, he most likely doesn't have an office.
I said I wanted to speak to Sumner Redstone. He switched me up to another guy, Brian. So I said, and he said, what for? And I said, I'm a columnist with the Newsday. I'm going to write this story. He said, well, I don't know if he's available or something. I said, wait a minute, what are you? And he said, I'm in security. I said, get off my phone.
Jimmy.
Security men, I don't talk to you. Out. I'm on business. I don't want him.
But he most likely doesn't even have an office. I bet he doesn't go to work.
I
Do
have
you even
no
know
idea.
if he knows what's happening?
I have no idea what
All right,
he
let's
does.
talk
but
about.
I'm telling you, that gives you a picture of what it is.
Let's
at the
talk
top.
about
What?
television, newspaper coverage of the election process so far, the nominating process. It seems to me they helped to build up the Dean candidacy. Then they helped to kill it. That they do manipulate, but somehow they don't really. What are they lacking? What is the problem?
I'll tell you what I think. I resent them more than you do. But if you watch from the start of the primaries to the end of the general election, somehow, I don't know how, just maybe by the massive coverage, at the end of it, you have a very good idea of whom these candidates are. You know their personalities, you know their weaknesses, they do them. In the end, it works. It certainly is messy. You certainly resent it. I do. I can't make an excuse for anyone. Some of them are awful. NBC, I think, is a shill for the White House. I don't watch them anymore. I don't watch a lot of these people. And at the end of the whole thing, though, it works.
But when you say a shill for the White House, you really mean that they report what the press people say as fact, right?
Stop them. Brokaw, who once was a smart guy, he turns out doing a walk through the White House, tiptoe through the tulips, how lovely it was with Bush. That isn't your role as a newsman. You're not supposed to do that. That was your role as a shill.
Didn't they do that with Jackie Kennedy?
I don't care. It was a shill doing it. It was a shill. It's wrong. It was wrong then. It's wrong now.
What's your major...
And this is in time of war. This is a much more serious thing.
Let's talk about the war, because you think that's the most serious
thing. What's more serious than a young man getting killed?
Nothing.
That's it. That's the most serious thing. It's the only issue. And I saw the dean say that it looks like they don't care so much about the war anymore as an issue. We have to get to something else. I was shook. Then go up to the Bronx, where a young man, Louis Marino, was killed in Iraq a couple of days ago, and the family sitting 4 flights up in an apartment house, sitting there in silence. Just total shock. And we're talking, and it wound up that he was guarding a gas station in Baghdad, and he was shot in a drive-by by the other people, the people who lived there. And you thought they'd take this brave young man, 19 years old, from the streets of the Bronx out of Taft High School at Fort Riley, Kansas. He learned to be in the field artillery. And they send him to Baghdad, and they put him in front of a gas station like he's an attendant, like he's a security guard, just standing out there, and they blew him away. Now, that was a brave young soldier ready to fight for the country, and you humiliated him first and then let him die. I think it's just horrid, and nobody seems concerned about it. The New York Times runs the names of the dead like it's racetrack agate. It's shocking.
Well, at least they run them.
Oh, come on, shocking. Shouldn't they don't cover it, nothing. The kid got killed. Why did he get killed for? Well, he went to Taft High School, and he came out and he had a job distributing leaflets for supermarkets. Therefore he's not good enough to write
periodically, you run the names of all the people you get that from the Defense Department?
Yeah.
And then there was a publication, the Army Times?
Yes.
What did they do? They printed how many names?
They printed every single one of the 500.
With their photographs?
With the photographs. And it was a shocking thing. It brought to mind the Old Life magazine did a whole issue with the dead, the faces of the dead in Vietnam. And sad to say, both marvelous efforts got us nowhere. The war in Vietnam went on. This thing keeps going.
There have been 500 and how many?
I don't know, 25, 30. It's going up every minute, every day.
You said the other day that in the first couple of years of Vietnam War, there were...
It took 4 years in Vietnam to have 500 Americans killed. We wound up getting 58,000 killed.
What happened that triggered it?
What triggered the what?
The jump from the 500 over 4 years to the thousands.
We put in more troops, and the other guys put in more troops. I remember just one day in Vietnam, in Pleiku, Vietnam, a guy came in from out in this all, you go away from the base there, and it turns into woods and jungle. And a guy named Fenton from Connecticut came back, and he told me, wow, I just saw troops with regular uniforms out there. And some of them were Chinese. They were Chinese leading North Vietnamese troops. That was in 1965, and that was the start of it.
That was it.
That started it.
So before that, it had been more of a guerrilla warfare,
more of a guerrilla
similar
warfare.
to now. But I don't know where they would be able to get troops to come in
Iraq.
Does the parallel then disappear?
They could walk in from China. They could walk in Syria. They could walk in any place.
So it was interesting because you said Dean said that the war wasn't an issue.
That was crazy.
Kerry.
Well, why
I mean,
would he?
Kerry.
What's he going to say? It isn't.
But a lot of your friends, the television commentators and newspapers, have said, "Let's get off the subject about the war." I mean, I've heard it all on CNN, the latest result, the latest polls and all of that kind of stuff. But then the president's budget, the proposed budget, is certainly about the war.
The smartest guy on television is Bob Schieffer on CBS, and he said it once. They were having some argument in the whatever that show was, and he said at the end of it, he said, "There's only one issue. It's Iraq." That was it. And that was the issue. And
is he the smartest guy because he thinks you're smart?
No. I
you
think
have
he's been smart for a long time.
We should let people know that you have a say. You know why I like him? Why?
Because he likes me.
Right.
But no, I saw him in 1963 in the Dallas Police Headquarters.
Yeah.
He had walked in with Oswald's mother, who had called. He worked on the Fort Worth paper. The woman called and said, "I'm trying to get to the Dallas police station, and how can I get there?" And he said, "Stay there, I'll get you, don't worry." And he brought her in.
Well, that was pretty clever.
Yes, don't worry about
Hard-working.
him. He was there.
Right. So what's the difference in reporting now? You write a column, and it can be what your opinion is, but you insist on going someplace to see somebody before you write that column?
Absolute. You're dead if you don't. The reason they don't do it is they're afraid to go out and meet people. They come from these colleges. They live in cloistered lives. They get great marks. Hooray, hooray, here I come. Then you put them in a newspaper, a news office, and they're afraid to go to Brooklyn to meet anybody. They want to talk on the phone. And they write these dead stories because they haven't seen anybody.
But they grew up in different times also.
I don't care. They're afraid of people. They really are afraid to go and meet people.
mean,
that's not me. Yeah. That's not me. That's the complaint you hear.
But you and I are getting older, and we've been alive through many exciting times. And there have been great changes since when we were younger and now. And I think about it, a lot of these young people grew up much later than we did, never really in those good times.
Yeah, that's their problem. Don't make it mine.
I know, but just understand that.
I went to the Bronx yesterday. I did what I've always done. I climbed the stairs. It's 4 stairs up. That's 1 flight shy of what it usually is, 5.
It would be too unfair of me to tell what the cop said to you, who was visiting.
No, I don't want to. There was a cop there, a sergeant from the 46th precinct, who came by quite graciously to see the family and to tell them he was buying flowers. And he wanted to know, do they want the flowers up here or down on the fence in front of the house? So I started to leave. He was looking at me. He started to remember, Eleanor Bumpus, I saw you there at these houses. He started to remember all old cases. And then I walked out.
And as he remembered them, you got older and older, right?
He came out after me. He said, "Can you get down alone all right?" I said, "Die." And I usually said what, but it had been so long.
You see, you give me
but
things.
But you've got to do that the same as you did whenever we first saw each other. Yeah. How was I going to see these people if I didn't go up and see them?
Right. You always give me these things to fill out for you. I mean, not only do you want to know where I'm going, you want to know who I'm talking to. And I always have to go with you because you don't drive, right? So I have to drive you. But when they ask your occupation, I never know what to say. Do I say columnist or author? Author.
Listen, wait, who wants to know the occupation?
Well, it's different, people that I'm filling
Whatever
out
sounds highest.
Highest. So
author sounds higher than columnist, so put author. That's good.
So you're very proud of your Irish heritage. Do you think that there is a special talent that Irish people have about writing?
Yeah, no
what
question.
Is it?
You go to the direct to the cause.
Well, where did it come from? Why do they have? Why do you have this talent?
It comes out of the mist. No, but I mean, you saw where my family comes from.
Yeah.
Brightonport. How could you learn anything there except?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
It's desolate.
It's in the northwest part of Ireland, on the ocean.
Yeah, but then my great-grandfather came and had a weekly newspaper in Brooklyn, so there was always somebody starting in it.
Your great-grandfather had a weekly newspaper? You never told me that.
In Flatbush, sure.
Is that right?
Of course I did.
I did not.
I tell you everything.
Is that how you? Is that why? What started you to be interested in newspapers?
No, I just naturally wanted.
Was he alive when you were alive?
No, nobody ever was alive.
So you never saw his paper?
No. It was the only thing I ever wanted to do was newspapers.
I do have one of the early papers that you put out. How old were you when you did the Flash?
I don't know.
About 8, 9, 10? Younger.
I don't know when.
You hand wrote it. It's called the Flash.
Yeah, but then we did it.
And then you've got notices to from the management. You say that this paper won't be out every week, but it's going to be out fairly often. Yeah. And what did you do? You couldn't copy it. I mean, there are no copying machines in those days.
Yeah, we did. No, we got to a mimeograph.
Oh, you did it on a stencil.
Sometimes stencil.
Yeah.
You cut a stencil.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I think my Aunt Harriet did it in a raw office. Somebody did it for us.
So then you handed it out.
Yeah.
The Flash.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So you have no explanation about why Irish people
they go
write
to
with
the,
such soul and spirit.
basic.
Does it have to do with religion? Belief?
I think it has to do with the fact that you rebel against the religion. You can't write unless you rebel, which is we're going back to the trouble with all these people are reporters. They never rebelled a bit. Who rebels against Yale or who rebels that they're in Wellesley? They fall in love with Wellesley. It kills them. I want to be the first to tell.
What's the matter with Wellesley?
It produces that. It produces all. If everybody, they got that same way. No, nothing. Hillary Clinton.
I knew you were going to get to Hillary Clinton, but do you feel the same way about Barnard College?
Barnard?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least it's on a city street.
The only reason I say that is that your Aunt Harriet went to Barnard, and I went to Barnard.
Patsy, too.
And Aunt Patsy, two aunts, and me.
Yeah.
So, and you liked all of us.
Yeah, well, I can't be against that then.
No, you can't.
But I mean, anyone else.
What about the Russian writers? They're pretty good.
They're the best.
Yeah.
But they got that. They carry it to a past that. They get to the basis of a thing, the core of the man, go right through to the core. But then they get wild. They get dangerous. They have people executed. People with their heads cut off. It's great. They're
Snowstorms, throwing children to the wolves.
Everything. Well, I don't know if that's me, but I mean, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, you can't. There's nobody in their league today. Who are you going to put in their league today? Our America. John Updike with another nice Protestant novel. Come on. No, not near. The closest would be Mailer to having any rollicking in it.
So do people have to misbehave to be good?
Well, they're interesting. The bad boys are interesting. Who cares about somebody nice?
Right. So
they're boring.
Then how
and they have nothing underneath them. The
how
only
did you
reason
marry me?
I'm
not known as bad.
The only reason they have anything, these nice people, any men, the only reason they're nice is that they have something behind them. Father knows best, left them some money. That's always my.
Most people have some stories behind them, don't they? Isn't that what's interesting about life?
They're not apparent enough for me. I mean, you got to spend a lot of time to get them.
I know when I married you, which is now more than 20 years ago, and you had these characters, Marvin the Torch, Klein the lawyer, Fat Thomas. I didn't think they were really real. I still get confused every once in a while as to whether they're really real or not. But it turns out that they are really real. I mean, they really are as colorful and as defying. But you're right. I mean, there isn't any of that, or not much of it anymore.
No.
Well, now you got what's his name, Justin Timberlake, who and
22-year-old.
I know, but
sing?
look at them, and then you've got
I don't know
what?
Can he sing? Justin Timberlake?
I think he can.
Okay, good. All right.
But I mean, you've got that kind of badness. That wasn't bad. I mean, you've got hip hop. That's
that was
fun.
a press agent thing.
And he didn't think it was going to be bare-breasted.
I bet he did. Who cares what they thought? It was a stunt and it worked.
But the kids in Hollywood are not like the stars used to be, are they? Or is it?
I don't know.
I think it's a generational thing. I think that when we get to be a little older, you no longer pay attention to it.
I think if I'm 16 and I'm looking out at these actors and actresses, it's the same as it was when you were young.
That's why I was dismayed about the political scene, because I liked the Dean campaign because it aroused some passion and excitement, and it got a lot of people in, the volunteering and the use of the internet, which you never really accepted, but it was there. There was no doubt about it. I mean, you raised a lot of money. They also spent a lot of money.
They blew the money.
Right. They did. And as a Dean supporter who contributed to that campaign, I am really, I never knew that the campaign manager was part of the firm that handled the advertising and got how much money from them?
$5.7 million they got.
In billing.
In billing. Yeah.
Worth of time. They didn't make it in profit. They bought $5.7 million worth of television time, right? So they got a profit from that. But I'm afraid that that these people who were brought into the political process will leave. Now, how do we ensure...
They had a good time. They'll stay. I want to know how many of them showed up. Half the people voting in the Iowa caucuses for the first time didn't vote for Dean.
Right.
So,
That's
I mean,
true.
what are we talking about here? And the other thing, you were mentioning the quality of people, what they're like. It is a shame that we don't have enough characters around. It was just, I got to mention the obituary the other day for Eleanor Holm, who was the great Olympic backstroke swimmer. And she came from Oregon Street in Long Beach and Brooklyn. And she was married. Who was she married to? Arthur Jarrett, a band leader. Billy Rose had the this.
She said she swam so much that her skin and her hair turned green and her skin dried up.
Then she married a fellow named Thomas Whalen, who was listed in the New York Times in the obituary as an oil executive from Houston. Well, Jules Stein is a songwriter who was gambling desperately, and he owed money, and he's in a hotel room in Miami, and a big fat guy busts into the door and says, "You owe, we're going to break your legs and you pay," and he left. So Jules called Chicago, where he did all his business from the time in which he let Al Capone lead the band through the Rhapsody in Blue at a huge party.
Is that when he wore the white gloves?
Yes, Al Capone, white gloves and tails. So Jules said, "What is this? I've been playing with you people all my life. Now you let a guy come in and threaten my life." And the guy on the other end in Chicago got very nervous. He said, "Julie, please stay where you are. Don't move." And he hung up. He said about a half hour later, the door bangs, or an hour later, and Tommy Whalen, as Julie described him, a tough guy from St. Louis, walks in, and I start screaming, "What do? I bet all these years with you." And the guy said, "Julie, stop, please. He is no more." And Julie was about to continue when it hit him. And then Tommy said again, "He is no more." He sat down and he said, "I didn't move for 24 hours. He was so afraid." And he said, Julie then said, as he's telling the story in his apartment here on Fifth Avenue, he said, "Watch what you do with this. You know, there's no statute of limitations on homicides." He went to his grave afraid of the case. But that was, Eleanor Holm got thrown off the Olympics for shooting dice and drinking on the ship going over.
With the newspapermen. She was a member of the Olympic team. They were traveling.
She was around with the mob. What's the difference? It didn't affect her swimming.
Right.
But it was the stuffed shirts that ran it.
So it's a sense of humor that's
important. What's missing. Do you see the Olympic swimmers today? What do you get?
I don't know. You don't know them either because you never have that opportunity to find out. The only time you find out is when they misbehave badly.
They don't.
Yeah.
A young woman came to me in the...
Well, they do. They take the drugs. They don't misbehave
the drugs,
fun.
I don't know, but there's no fun. The drugs, you do it alone. That's why it's no fun. Get out and get stewed and start throwing dice around. Let's see some action.
But they don't drink anymore. Drink wine.
Yeah, that's terrible. Take a drink, stop the wine.
But you haven't had a drink for...
No, well, that's still like to recognize that it's very good.
I'm always amused to when people say, "Oh, you're married to Jimmy Breslin," and then they think you're drunk, right?
Good.
And I've never really seen you drunk. I have seen you drunk, but you haven't been married to you since you're drunk. You finished a book.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
It's a book on the Roman Catholic Church. It'll be out in about 5 months.
And what are you planning to do next?
I don't know. I have no idea. Look.
You're going to write another book?
I better keep going. It's my business. If I don't, we live now overlooking Central Park, and if I don't do another book, we'll be living in Central Park.
No,
that's
please
the way
don't
I look
do
at
that.
it.
I'll take care of you, Jim. Do you like writing novels or nonfiction?
Novels are best. That's what I'm going to do from now on. Never mind any more nonfiction.
I'm not sure I'm glad to hear that, because when you write novels, you get lost in another world. They don't, do people talk about, I guess they do, the spouses or partners of writers.
No, I don't believe in any of those things.
Oh, what are you talking about? You'll say we can't go. How can I talk to anybody else?
Well,
I'm talking to myself.
But I mean, these
what do you mean you don't
people
believe
that
in
have
that?
terrible lives because
I
and they
didn't say
blame
it's a
it on
terrible
the
life.
writing. They were lousy
I've
to
never
begin
decided if it's a terrible life or a good life. If it's better for me if you're busy and don't want to talk to anybody, and then I'm free to go and do things, or is it better for me when you're around and you want to know where I'm going?
Do you know the
But I'm trying to explain that a writer, when you're writing fiction, you're imagining the world around you. Although a lot of it is based on your own experiences, right?
I wrote, what did I write? I wrote The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. No, that wasn't me. I wrote World Without Amen. That was a big bestseller. That was me.
That was Ireland. And
most of it was my own life, too, right? There were two good novels, and they did very, very well.
Table Money.
Yeah, Table Money was a fine American novel. That was the third bestseller I had. It was a novel, and it's always you. It doesn't matter who the character is. It's always you. And so I'll do another one. It'll be me. I don't know how much of me I have left to talk about, though, even in print. But you do it. But there's a glory to it in that you have absolutely no boss. I mean, there's nobody. Nobody tells you what to do, and what you do every day is you sit down with your novel and you have these characters, and you're the boss. You can make them move here, you can make them live, you can make this one die, you can break this heart, or you can move this up and make people laugh. It all is you. Nobody else handles it. It's like, running a board. You just, running a chessboard, but only you do what you want. It's terrific.
Do you get angry at them?
No, if they don't, at the end of a run of writing about it, if the character doesn't impress me as a good character, of course I'm furious, but I'm smart enough to get mad at myself. I don't, and that's the one pitfall of a novel too, which if we're going to start out on it, I always have to remind myself that you start writing about something, a guy in a particular occurrence, and you go 10 days, and then you look at it and you know you took a wrong turn and you got to throw the whole 10 days out. You have to, though. You can't keep it. There's no way to keep it. No such throwing good words after bad. So that's all. You learn to do that. You learn to walk away from a loss pretty good. It's almost like the racetrack.
Yeah, but you don't suffer silently.
So what?
Well, I'm suffering with you. Anyway, our time is up, so this half hour.
Okay.
It was very nice to talk with you.
It was good.
And
now we'll go home and sit in silence.
No, we won't. It's not, well, at the beginning of the day is when you're most talkative, period. But thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you finished a book, and I hope you start one soon.
Soon.
Good.
Absolute.
And you should have a long and wonderful life.